Yeah, I kind of want to make a sort of ask players series where I go through and I like ask a bunch of questions I have about the games. The ask questions specifically for the people who play like especially super like active in the community and the character building and theory crafting side of stuff. Because like there are a lot of like terms I've heard that I just do not understand at all. Every single one of these games I've heard people mentioning team cost, and I still have no idea what that means. Like I've been trying to figure it out on my own, and just I don't understand what it means. What's the level I'm trying to make characters? So it should be 45, right? Yeah. P1 or E1 45.
Is this your upgraded training regimen? It's definitely safer than the past.
I think I've heard the term cost mostly with Star Rail. That's because Star Rail is the most overly competitive of the games. But I also got questions like why people uh, care so much about the why people seem to hard focus on the like what character does the best type of thing to the point where it's literally gotten to the point where I found people who literally don't understand any other way of where's best bit there. I always forget this in the front. People don't understand any other way of any other reasoning of pulling for characters than for them to be the strongest. Because like I've heard people like I've genuinely heard people who didn't understand pulling a character purely for fun or for other reasons. I tried to explain it to them, but they just didn't seem to understand. And I'm like, you what? You can't be serious. It's a game. You play it to have fun. I didn't choose the Angels of Delusion because any of them were good. I didn't know if anyone would be good. I definitely have teams that are much stronger than these three. Much stronger. But I pulled them purely for their design. I didn't care about any mostly Arya's design. I like the color palette. Oh dang it, I needed that. Whatever. That's good enough. Right. Point. Point. Bonk. Support. Support. Point. Can't hit me when I'm out, buddy. We gotta save the because these enemies tend to take a while. There we go. But like, and now the main reason I play them is because I find them so fun. They do a decent chunk of damage too, but like, again, I definitely have much stronger characters. I own Shung Wang, so like, and I got the free Zhao, so I can definitely use the strongest team. I believe is the strongest team at the moment. I don't know. I don't pay attention to that. Uh, but I chose not to because I just like this team so much. I like these characters so much. I think people focus too much on strength, like to the point where they seem to believe every character should be the strongest, like when they release. And I'm just like, no, that would make the game really. That's really boring when you know every character that comes out is just going to be the strongest. Like, come on. You figure out why sometimes there's enough energy and sometimes there isn't. And like It's like when Varka released, and I heard people were complaining about his strength before, but before he even released, people were complaining about his damage. For one thing, Varka is way more than strong enough to do most of the things in that game with absolutely zero issue. Like, I'm walking around and I'm absolutely like destroying enemies. Damn it! See, I keep wanting to get the freaking thing, but nah, it never works. Why does it stop knockbacking in weird directions? I need you to hit the right. Nope. I need to hit this guy.
I'll take you. Out of my way.
In the air, jackass. Where?
Let's have one more dance. Yeah. Jump on the dance floor. We're not at the handshake stage yet.
One of the things I like the most about Varka is that like, I can actually like play the game. Like if you're playing if your characters are too strong, then like you often aren't even playing the game. You know? Like it's like when I looked through a bunch of the music and the I don't by a bunch of the music I mean literally every single in-game track in Genshin, and I was like, and I found and I kept going through the battle tracks, and at first I wasn't going to listen to them all the way because they're all like 5 minutes to six, they're like 4 to 6 minutes long each, you know, so they're really long compared to most game tracks. But then I ended up listening to them all the way through because there are parts of those songs that you never hear because people have gotten so obsessed with strength that you often are being made to build characters in a way that are so strong that you never get to hear any of those tracks. Like, bro, some of the default music in that game, like the default, like, basic area, like, battle tracks, are absurdly good if you actually listen to them all the way through. Like, holy crap. Like, it is actually absurd. But, like, I've never understood the over-competitiveness. I mean, you can be competitive and it's fine. The problem is that for some reason they insist that everyone has to play the game that way, and therefore the entire game should revolve around, like, when it comes to the character strength that get released, every character should be capable of, like, one-shotting bosses and BS like that, and it's stupid. And don't say that characters won't, because they're freaking Mawika and Genshin literally can one-shot most bosses in the overworld. I'm not even joking. Most of the bosses sit between 100 and 500k HP, maybe, roughly. That she can hit millions with absolutely zero issue. She can hit millions with level 1 talents and being literally level 1. Her ultimate does that much damage on its own. It is actually fucking absurd. Like, holy crap. I just, like, for some reason, everyone just insists that the characters be super strong on release, and it's stupid. I don't think it should be that way. That's literally the reason power creep exists, because people insist every character has to be stronger than the previous characters, which is just really dumb. All characters should be balanced around each other. No character should be overtly, insanely stronger than everyone else. It's really dumb when it is that way. Characters should be roughly around the same strength as each other. And yes, that means I think that... What's a really weak DPS in Genshin? I think Razor should have the same potential of damage as Mawika. And I do genuinely believe that. Because that's what game balancing is. Insisting that a character is overtly super strong for other reasons is stupid. Because then it breeds an over-competitive community and so and it ends up being just characters are end up only being pulled for that reason a lot of the time. Like, for example, the reason I didn't pull Mawika when she first came out, or in any of her subsequent like versions, wasn't because she was strong or weak. It was because I just didn't like her character. Oh, hold on. Sorry. I don't like her as a character, if that makes more sense. She's a really, really well written character. I just don't vibe with her, if you get what I mean. I think she is kind of stupid. People seem to have this thought that because she's an Archon, she's supposed to be this ultra wise thing. But people need to remember she's like 30 years old at best. she's she's not 500 like a lot of the other gods. No, no, no. She was like 20 and then threw herself into the flame to extend her lifespan, or to be specific, put her in stasis until 500 years later, where she came back out. She is not 500. She was simply born 500 years ago, if that makes more sense. Like, she herself is like, it's a different scenario from, like, say, Farazan, who was completely conscious for her 100 years gone. Mawika, as far as I can remember, was not. She basically time traveled 500 years in the future and then became Archon again. But she's not like the super wise, so a lot of the decisions she makes are really like jump the gun, or like super. She either jumps the gun entirely or is super conservative about her actions. There's a lot of stuff like that. That's what I mean when I say that. But that's my entire reason for not pulling for her. And I think people not liking a character's design or just vibing with a character as a character is a better reason for not wanting to have them than because they're strong or weak. Because that is super subjective, and it should be subjective and not objective. Like, yes, characters can be somewhat stronger than others purely based on like what abilities they have, but I don't think it should be the sheer damage numbers that Mawika has. Because other than her damage numbers, she's a really boring character mechanically. She has fucking nothing. I know this is a stupid rant, but like, dude, she has nothing else. Like, there's nothing unique about building a team around her. It's just, oh, here, just fucking give her a damage amplification and you're done. That's it. She has big damage number, and then you just make it bigger with melt. You're welcome. That's it. That's her entire fucking thing. It's stupid. I don't like it. It's not like Varka, who has this super specific like team building mechanic, but it's also not specific in a way to where you have to use specific characters. It's just like, hey, if you need to have, like, to max out the damage of his Four Winds Ascension, you need to have one other Animo character besides himself, and then two of the same element character that he can infuse himself with. And then maybe have one of those characters be Hexaray. And that's it. Congratulations, you have made... congratulations, that is his team. But it's also like, you have a lot of options for that. There are tons of Animo characters in the game. It could be literally any Animo character. I often go with Jean just for aesthetics. But also because the instant healing is really nice. Especially because it's team-wide, so I don't have to worry about a character who doesn't typically want to be on field very much. And then you just have two of the same element character for his infusion to take extra damage, and it's really nice. On top of that, you also have his unique mechanics with the Hexaray. You have multiple options for his Four Winds Ascension attack. You can use either the charge attack version or the skill version, and they both have different benefits. The charge attack version does a good bit significant more damage, so he does overall more DPS, but the problem is that it's really short range, but his skill hits a lot more enemies more consistently because of its far range. Both of them, you don't have to worry about your distance from the enemy when you click it, because he just fucking launches himself towards them anyways. Fucking love that mechanic. It's so nice. I love characters that just instantly close the gap from enemies. That's why I like the mannequin so much. And why I mained them for a while before Varka came out. And then you also have His ultimate doesn't really do a whole lot, but it is actually a fun ultimate to do. Plus, hitting enemies in a wide area means you can kill multiple enemies without having to waste your skill on them. It's really nice. It's just really convenient. Plus, the animation is just cool. It's quick and easy. And then you have the fact that while he is under the effect of his, well, first of all, his normal attacks are just really fun to use. So that alone was one of the main reasons I really wanted to use him. And then the fact that, so mostly, usually when you have a certain character, you usually can't do super many other like teams for them. And on top of that, because they usually deal a specific damage type, there are often enemies that they just can't fight. There are a lot of characters in this game that literally just can't beat certain enemies or certain bosses because they just can't. For example, if a character can't deal any form of dendro damage or dendro attacks that can hit like non-enemies, you can't. That character by themselves literally cannot beat the dendro hypostasis. But there are a lot of other enemies that like need certain reactions. But Varka is out here and he's just like, what if I could do 6 different elements of damage? He could do physical, animo, pyro, hydro, cryo, and electro damage. Just based on what characters are in this team. People seem to focus on the pyro one a lot, and I don't know why. From my own tests, pyro is significantly more inconsistent in actually getting high damage. Unless you want to use your Bennett on him specifically, which is the only reason he does a shit ton of damage. That or Nicole. But Nicole's super recent, not a lot of people are going to have her. But, like, for example, if Varka had come out in his current state, like, when I first started, I wouldn't have been able to use him with Bennett anyways for, like, another 2.5 years. When I finally got Bennett. It literally took that long. It took forever. I didn't get Bennett until, like, 2023 or 2024. But meanwhile, his other teams have more characters that work with them, and other elements just feel nicer to use, anyways. A lot less enemies have high resistance to pyro. Or a lot more enemies have high resistance to pyro than the other elements. These are what I found. Oh, there's the verb. The Hydro team I found to be the most consistent in terms of energy generation because more characters in Hydro actually prefer that. On top of that, it's easier to find healers for Hydro. The Cryo team is the one that has the most characters that actively are really good at helping him get damage out. You have characters with some level of buffing like Rosaria and Mika, and then you also have characters that do extreme buffing while also providing other things like the 2 characters I use with his Cryo variant that I have, which is Shenhe and Escoffier, which if you're using pretty much any Cryo character, you're probably going to have Shenhe, and if you're using any Cryo or Hydro character, you're probably going to want Escoffier, because she is really good for like any of them. People seem to talk about her explicitly for like a select few characters, but Escoffier is a very good universal DP or universal buffer for like every Cryo and Hydra character in the game because she buffs both of them. And as long as you have at least a few of them, at least one of them, she'll give notable res decreases. For some reason, people seem to think her ability works the exact same way as Chevrous's, where Chevrous needs to have a team of explicitly Pyro and Electro characters, and at least one of each. No, Escoffier is always going to give that buff because she is a Cryo character and therefore activates her own ability, which I think is funny. That ability, once you unlock it, literally always exists. You cannot turn it off, which is fine because it doesn't mess with any other characters, so it's completely fine. And even if it did, it'd be very minuscule. A lot of people talk about bricking accounts, which is another thing I've got to ask people. If they genuinely think an account can be quote-unquote bricked, and if they actually know what the meaning of that word is, because an account, something that is bricked, refers to things like phones, where they just stop being able to do anything, and therefore become the equivalent of a brick, which is that it's just a massive space. I dropped my phone on the controller, but it just doesn't do anything. That's what bricked means. It's just a slab of nothing. It's just a thing that takes space. Oh, but Like, you can't do that for any of these accounts. And even then, people will be like, oh, but it's basically bricked because of the amount of effort it would take to fix. I'm like, no, not really. Or they'll mention, like, a specific mechanic that you can't use, or a specific, like, combination of character and other thing that you can't use anymore. Like, I think there's something with the remembrance Lycon you can get from the Herta shop that apparently can quote unquote brick your account. And I was like, how? And they're like, I think it was like some specific hyper optimized speed thing. And I'm like, bro, that's not bricking. That's just ever so slightly inoptimal. Like, I saw someone saying that a 2 to 3% increase was substantial. And I'm like, it's really not. Oh, wow. You go from doing 100K to 102K. That's not as it's in order to be like, oh, you go from 1 million to uh 1,020,000, or yeah, 1,020,000. It's really not that much of a difference when you actually look at the numbers. They're like, oh, but it's 2 to 3% of what? And I'm like, that is not how percentage works. Percentage is not. That matters when you're comparing something that increases by a percentage versus something that increases by a flat amount. So, for example, in Genshin, or pretty much any of these games actually, where you have where an artifact or relic or drive disk or whatever can have a. I'm pretty sure I have at least one thing on here with an example. Um, let's see. I need something with both just to show. Okay, so you see how this has attack percent and attack flat on its substats. Attack flat, this is where the percentage of what matters. If this was a character with a really, really low attack stat, like let's say an attack stat of 1, then the attack of 19 would make that attack go from 1 to 20. The attack percent, being 9%, even though it's plus 2 increase, would only make that attack go from 1 to 1.09. That is where the distinction of what matters, when it's in comparison to the flat number. That is where the percentage of what actually matters. And I know, and I realized this thing a long time ago when I was, because I had, for a long time ago, and it's going to be really weird comparison, Dragon Ball. Because of a specific description of how fusions work in Dragon Ball, I had heard from a long time ago. I don't remember what from, but I think it might have been the Broly movie, the newer Broly movie that screwed me up. Because when Gogeta came out, they said combined and then significantly magnified. In my brain, that was like, oh, you combine their numbers and then multiply them by like a multiplier of like, what, 20 or something? And that's what I thought it was. And this does help for numbers that are lower. But the actual way they work is taking their it's taking the power level of one and then multiplying it with the power level of the other. So, for example, you have, this is again where like the specific numbers matters in comparison to other types of increases. So, for example, let's say you have two people with a power level of 10, and they do the fusion dance. And let's say that power level increase is adding them up and then multiplying them by 10, or multiplying them by, yeah, I'll just go 10 just to make it easier. So that is 10 plus 10, that's 20, and then you multiply it by 10 to make 200. Now let's say it's multiplying them together. Even though this would increase a lot more for like the modern Dragon Ball characters, for two people with a power level of 10, multiplying them together only gives you 100. It is half as effective. But once you increase it to, I forget what the number is that initially makes it higher. Like if I throw it into a... Okay, hold on. I forget where it like hits that number, but like, let's say you have 1,000. When you multiply 1,000 by 1,000, you get 1,000,000. But if you add them together, that is the wrong one. Oops. If you multiply them together, and then if you add them together and then multiply them by 10, you only get 20,000. As you can see, it already has a massive fall off right away. But that is what that is where the percentage of what actually matters. It does not matter in overall performance when comparing against just itself. It does. Is it a difference? Yes. Is it mattering? No, not really. It's completely negligible. But because these people have begun to think in such extreme lengths of hyper optimization, they have convinced themselves that it is that few percents actually matter. For example, like just for another number to show up, I've been seeing zero cycle clears. Yes, we're only in version 1 of the 4.4 beta, and we already have people doing zero cycles. It's a fucking classic thing that people do for some reason. I don't get it. Zero cycles are not really a thing we need to be caring that much about. That really shouldn't be people's first priority. I still don't even know what other items she needs. I need to. I wouldn't. The only reason I know what I need to be farming, mostly, for what I need for Rin and Gil is because of the new items they just added this last patch, and the fact that I've seen that we're getting new plane ornaments next patch. So that's the only reason I know where I need to farm for different stuff. Even then, for Rin, I don't actually need either of those new things. I'm going to be farming for the Quantum set and then the Penacony set, which I've never actually used before. So it's going to be cool to use that. The number that showed up was, I think it was 11.8 million zero cycle or something like that. So that's the total amount of damage being dealt, right? 11.8 million. Hold on. So if you're making a, 2 to 3% difference, then you're multiplying it by 1.03. Congratulations, you went from 11.8 million to 12.154. To put that into perspective, if you subtract 11.8 million from that, I just put 1.3%. You only increase your damage by like 350,000 in total, which means over the course of that zero cycle, which had way more turns than you'd expect, by the way, like actually in it because of action advances and stuff. You were dealing, overall that 350k increase is like 20k a turn or something like that equivalent. I don't know exactly how many turns they were doing, but that's how much it was. If you were making that small, making that small little bit of difference over the course of 11.8 million HP damage, it's not that big of a difference. A 3% will always be a 3%. The percentage does not care about the number that it already is. It only matters if you're comparing it to a different number. Because math is all about comparison. It is all about, like most physics, relativity. Because everything is relative. You can't use a number by itself because that is... What's what I'm looking for? I don't know what the word's not coming to me right now, but it doesn't show the full story if you only do the... It's like a lot of statistics will often be super wrong because it's not taking in the full context. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. This is the one game where I tend to ramble the most when I'm sitting on this game and Star Rail, because I'm not thinking as much during the gameplay. Anyways.